Good morning. Good morning, everybody. Goedemorgen. Selamat siang. It's good to be here from a very, very cold Netherlands and hopefully a warmer Indonesia. My name is Nishal Sarju. I work for Deltares, based in Jakarta, but for a couple of days in the Netherlands now. It's a pleasure to be your moderator and your host today in this very, very important session as part of the Winter Week. I was at the opening ceremony yesterday, which was very good to see the level of support on the highest policy levels from both Indonesia and the Netherlands. And to see that we continue this very nurturing relationship and where we learn from each other, which is one of the most important things. We have a very interesting program for you today. If you look at the title of the program, you see a couple of interesting words that capture your mindset. Socio-economic impacts of land subsidence. In the past years, we've seen our research as an institute, but also over the course of the work that we've been doing with our partners and with the government, shift rightfully so towards a more integration of beta and gamma sciences, where we see that only technical solutions, or thinking in the realm of only technical solutions, is usually a recipe for disaster, for failure, and where we see the importance of fitting technological solutions in institutional governance and more the social dimensions. So in the past years, we've been collaborating a lot in Indonesia, outside of Indonesia, with other Dutch partners, with other Indonesian partners, on say the more softer elements, and that is not only for land subsidence, but also for flood risk management, for other hazards, but also for water quality, etc., etc. Now, today we will be having a couple of presentations. One from my colleague, Rizka Malia, and we also have a couple of colleagues from the Ministry of Public Works and also BRIN, the newly established research agency for in Indonesia. I was also asked to tell a little bit about our collaboration with BRIN in the past years, which has been very successful. We know that BRIN is new, and we also understand the challenges of working within new institutions. You have to find your way. But still, while BRIN was setting itself up, we, through our long-standing relationship with Payus Budiono, also working from and within the Delta Alliance, we kind of said, hey, we see the need for this type of research. We are mutually interested in it. Let's try to see if we can do some research. Deltares from our more strategic research side of things, and Payus, so BRIN, from a BRIN perspective. So the successful side of what we're going to present is not based on a client, not based on a project. It comes from our own funding, both institutes, BRIN and Deltares. And last year, we successfully also had a big conference in Indonesia where we presented some of the results. And this year, we are honored to be able to do that through Winner. So the message here is sometimes we don't need large amounts of funding from external parties. We do it from a more intrinsic motivation, and also, of course, you need to have the ability to do things yourself and to have these opportunities, for which we are very, very grateful. So we have a couple of presentations today, after which we have a Q&A. So if you have questions, please keep them for that moment. Feel free to ask everything. Also, maybe put your questions in the chat so we can answer, we can pick and choose some. Apologies, we might not be able to answer all of your questions, but you will see the contact details of the researchers, so you can also contact them afterwards. Please be reminded that you need to fill out the form for certification. I will remind you again at the end of the session. And with that being said, I think we move on to the first presenter, which is my colleague Rizka Akmalia. Rizka works at the Jakarta office for Deltares, already for almost 8 years, I think. She is mostly focusing on the urban side of flooding, and mostly on the impact side, so the risk and impact side. By trade, she is a GIS and remote sensing specialist, and actually holds a master's in geometric engineering. I am very proud also to be able to work with Rizka in the office and for the past couple of years, because we also see how we are moving from a more technical, like I said, from a more technical perspective, like really GIS mapping, remote sensing, but more towards what can we do with our trade and with our skills to inform policymakers. And it's very cool to see that transformation and to see how we can actually make impact. Rizka is very much focused on our research in land subsidence in Jakarta, but also in other places all over the world, and is publishing very much many papers on these topics, and moreover also aspects like peatland mapping and flood risk management. Rizka, I hope you're there. So the floor is yours.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nishal. Good afternoon for the Indonesian fellows. Yeah, and good morning for our moderator and guests who are attending from the Netherlands. And thank you for the opportunity for me to share here. My name is Rizka Akmalia. I am an urban and flood risk researcher in Deltares, and today I would like to share some of our experience and perspective in studying the land subsidence case in the North Coastal Java. So, most of you might be familiar with the articles about flood in Indonesia, and I think more people are paying attention to it once Joe Biden's mentioned that Jakarta will sink in 10 years. At least more people questioning if it's true or not, why, and how to mitigate it. But this is actually not only in Jakarta. Flood problems are also happen to many cities in Indonesia, and to be specific, in the North Coastal Java areas, and the local people here knows it as crop, and this is actually a term for coastal flooding. And it is not only about the flood but also a massive abrasion. If you try to googling it, you'll find a lot of news in the article, and also in journal papers, how the North Coastal Java area have changed in the last 2 decades. And this is from the satellite data. If we compare it between the condition of the coastline in 1984 and 2023 in Semarang and Demak coastline, this is a huge change. You can compare it the green light with the yellow line in the right pictures, and a lot of agriculture area has been sinking. But is this really only about flooding and abrasion? Why does it happen, and how does it impact the people who lives in the area? Those were our real questions that motivates us to start this study. And is it true that this is only because of climate change, and can we all blame sea level rise? Apparently, it is not only about flood and abrasion. Beyond that, there is land subsidence issue in many north coastal Java area. You can see the red dots here in the right figure. These are the points measurement from INSAR data where the elevation decrease are detected. And the subsidence rate in Semarang Demak area can be up to 15 centimeter per year. Means that in 10 years, it could be up to 1.5 meter. So if we compare it with the sea level rise, which we found in the literature review for North Coastal Java is up to 6 millimeter per year, the land subsidence could be more than 20 times higher. So the ROP issue is not about the sea level rise, but this is mainly about the land subsidence. And due to this situation, several villages have been permanently inundated. Hundreds of people have been displaced and lose their job. And those who stays mentioned that um, this is a constant battle with water. And through this sharing session, I hope that we can learn together to put our empathy so that we can think together the best way to approach this problem in a more comprehensive way. So we know that subsidence is not only happen in Indonesia, it happens also in many countries like Japan, Thailand, China, and also the Netherlands. And Pak Yus will touch upon at this topic how the Dutch adapt with the situation and how can we learn from the Netherlands. But in Deltares, as a knowledge institute in water from the Netherlands, we also developed the framework into this what's called adaptive monitoring framework. And this is based on the 6M approach, which explains the step in evaluating whether the efforts made to reduce the rate of subsidence are actually correct and effective. And in this presentation, I will only focus on the second part of the first cycle, which is called mechanism of understanding. And this is a crucial step in the cycle because this is going to the basic for our judgment in the modeling and other steps. So back again to the North Coastal Java case. If you look at the red area, these are actually the cities and regions who have what we found in the literature review has subsidence issue. And of course, more cities are also having the same problem, such as Bandung, which is in the middle of the West Java. But in this case, we would like to focus on the North Coastal Java area. And why? Because this North Coastal Java area, known locally as Pantura or Pantai Utara, has historically been a key part of regional and international trade routes. And during the time of ancient kingdoms and empires, even in a colonialism period, this area have been the focal point for economic activities. And I put also the location of the ports, which are hub for trade. And rapid industrialization create a massive urbanization to these areas, to these cities along the areas. And this also means a massive land cover change. But how does it relate to the subsidence? Here, if we zoom in into Semarang area, which is at the center of the North Coastal Java, there were a significant development since 70s, 80s. So this picture above shows how the built-up area is spreading, indicated by the red dots. And this is actually the same area with the land subsidence area. If we overlap it with the below pictures, like this is the land subsidence area in the below pictures, the blue area is land subsidence, and the red area are the spreading of the built up areas. So this is actually overlap at the same place. And if we move slightly to the eastern coastline, to the Demak area, we can look from the satellite image that the current situation now have lost a lot of the area. A lot of greens have been gone. And based in our literature review, it is very limited resources which mention about the socio-economic impact of the land subsidence for the households. Most of the research are focused on the cost-benefit ratio for the big structures. And this is an ongoing research in Deltares, and we want to share you here what we found in the field. So about the possible drivers, Pak Pulung will touch upon on this more detailed in the case for Jakarta. And now I want to discuss about how does it impact the people. So in order to answer that, we did a geospatial analysis. And together with BRIN and also with the local government, we also did a mix, an FGD and also semi-structured interviews. And we also spread questionnaires, and to get like we did a cross-sectional interviews in 12 villages in Demak, with total of 350 people. And the result from the questionnaire, about the awareness, like they are aware about the tidal flood, about ROB, but only 3% of them mentioned about land subsidence. And in terms of impact, they they admit that they feel the impact, but in terms of effort, like most of them, like more than half of them say that they did not any effort to tackle the problem. And I will tell you more why. So based on the semi-structured interview, we did an interview in three villages in Demak, and we focused in these three questions. And the result is aligned with the questioners, that they were aware about the ROB that now is more frequent and get higher in the past decade. Some of them mentioned that they heard about land subsidence, but only a few can really explain the correlation between water, flood, and subsidence. And yeah, uh, what what we found is actually they're struggling with the same thing, but it is very interesting to see that each village, each community has their own way to respond to that situation. um, So this is the first village that we visited. They are in Triwulan. This is just beside the Tanjung Mas port. They said that they are struggling because they need to raise the roads and elevate their house frequently, even each year. So they also with the loss of income, they also need to buy water for drinking and bathing from the artesian well. And the artesian well itself is managed by the housing developers, because they can no longer use their own pump to get water from the shallow wells. And they said that some schools are permanently sinking, so they need to take their kids to other village for school. But when the water is high, they just stay at home. And for like they are being cautious because there was an accident where one person died after slipping and falling during high tide. So they also mention like their areas where they first moved to that areas, it was a green area with rice fields and mangroves, but now even mangroves have been disappeared. um, uh, this is a comparison situation there in Sri Wulan, because when we met some of the dwellers, they told us that they collected money from the household to organize to elevate roads, since the official government has no budget to elevate their roads. Only several area or only several area are managed by the official village government. And since the last decade, they mentioned that the flood gets worse, and they have elevated their roads in total for about 2 meters for the last decade. And but yeah, despite the struggling, they still think that they don't want to leave the area. They still want to stay there, because they already do the efforts together, so they share the same feeling. And it makes like the social cohesion between them is increased, and they feel already like a big family, and therefore they will feel loose if they need to leave the area. And some of them also mentioned that they stay there because they heard that the government will build a great dike in the coastal area, and they hope that the dike can stop the tidal flooding. And the other village just beside Triwulan is Bedono. And most of the residents there have been relocated, actually. Just some of them still stay there. And most of them were actually like the most of the people from Bedono were actually fishermen or merchants. And this area was on the meeting route among the northern villages in Demak. But since the past years, the access to the village sunk, and the village is empty, and now they lose their income. And unlike Sri Wulan, actually here the village officer helped them in elevating roads. So they do have some budget to elevate roads, but the people said that they actually don't want to, don't expect that measure. Like what they expect is actually incentive to assist them to relocate their house or just to increase their house. The people mentioned that some NGOs and private companies came to the area to plant mangroves, but according to them, the mangrove area now is keep decreasing due to the stronger winds and higher tidal wave causing submersion to the area. And other village that we visited is Timbus Loko, and they mentioned that previously it was like before floods, before the industrialization area, it was a prosper area and famous for their rice fields. But during the past decade, they have been yeah, they have been flooded, and they need to elevate their houses several times. And in accumulation now, they said like they already raised their house up to 1.5 meter higher than the original. And when they said that, without really knowing about the subsidence rate, like this is already a proof that that fact is matched with the rate of the subsidence based on the monitoring data. And same as other villages, they also need to buy water for drinking and bathing. But here they buy the water uh, from uh, not from the private, but also they buy it. They get it from the PAMSIMAS program. It is like a government program to build artesian well to actually mitigate the dry period there. The local initiatives here is quite active. With the help of NGOs, they started to plant mangroves in their area and also utilize it to make chips, tea, and syrup from mangroves. So they are, yeah, so they are already exposed to some trainings. And here is also the location of the nature-based solution pilot project, where we plant mangroves as the natural barrier and also to trap sediments. And for the people in Timbus Loko, they got more exposure than other villages, because because a lot of research and pilot projects are located here, and it also helped them to seize the available opportunities by switching from a farmer to become a collector of shrimps and crabs to keep getting income. And beside the interviews, we also did a focus group discussion with the regional government of Demak. We share and we discuss about what is actually happened in the region, their main struggles, what the locals need, what the government thinks they need, their expectation, and from there we can conclude that the main struggle is because there is no special regulation on land subsidence, and therefore the current measures done by the government focus on adaptation measure for flooding, and less to mitigate the land subsidence itself. And other challenge is to integrate effort from regional government with the central government. And from there, we also can conclude that the collaboration with multi-stakeholders and initiatives from grassroots is needed because it can help in shaping a more comprehensive planning. And that is our story about how the impact of land subsidence in society. And as a closing remark, we can tell that the impact of land subsidence are strongly felt by the society as it disrupt their main activities. They lose their income, they lost their assets, disruption to education, more expensive to access fresh water, renovating house, elevating roads. And it is not only about the economic loss, but it is also the social and environmental loss. There's still a big knowledge gap since most of them can feel the impact, but only a few of them know about the land subsidence and how this actually relate to water flood. And and because they don't have the knowledge, they falsely adapt with the situation. And most of the people don't know about the land subsidence. And we need and therefore they're still thinking that they need to combat the water. They are struggling with water. And yeah um, if we look at with that case from the interviews with locals, we also find that the problem is not always bad, actually, as we look that the establishment of a collective effort from them to solve the problem together, for example, to collect the money to raise road, it somehow leads to increase it leads to increase their social cohesion. So uh, it it bounds them together, but and yeah, in a way it also fosters a sense of attachment to the place. And based on the quantitative survey, like still half of the people do not put any effort because they think that the government should have the responsibility in doing the action to stop the subsidence. And exposure from NGO, private, and academician as well can help to urge the community to be active. But the current efforts still being partial, such as the mangrove restoration or coastal protection only, and therefore we need cooperation and integrated measures to increase the effort to tackle the problem. So that's from me. Thank you very much for this.
Thank you, Riska, for the presentation, for the insights. Very interesting to see the more social perspective. There are two things that I want to highlight also from your presentation is that, or from your story, is that land subsidence, I think people are realizing more and more that land subsidence is a silent beast. Flooding is something that happens, and you see it happening. It happens right away. You are confronted by the impact and the devastation that flooding causes. Land subsidence the impact can come after years. And it's not rocket science. So when you realize it, you think, hey, it's very easy to say, should I do something about it or should the next generation do something about it? And the second thing that I want to highlight is it is not a easy feat. Also in the Netherlands, we've been struggling in the past years on who is responsible for land subsidence. And then if you ask the question, who's responsible, then you come to the question, who needs to pay for land subsidence? Who needs to pay for the fact that my house, when I buy a house in Gouda and my house sinks, who needs to pay for that? The government on every level in the Netherlands has been actively involved in trying to set up these governance arrangements for land subsidence, and the 6M method is something that can guide you in that. But there are examples all over the world and also in the Netherlands, with Gouda, for example, being a frontrunner in setting up knowledge institutes and knowledge platforms for land subsidence. So there is much to learn, but one thing that we also need to understand is that culture is very different, and culture make things can make things also very difficult to implement one-on-one. So many thanks for the insights. Many thanks for the presentation. Due to time, I think we need to move on to Pak Pulung from the Ministry of Public Works and Housing, one of the long-standing partners of Deltares and the Dutch government, through which we have a long-standing MOU on water, also focusing on land subsidence. Dr. Pulung is the head of the Subdirectorate Planning and Technical of the Ground and Raw Water in the ministry. A geologist by trade, expertise in hydrogeology, engineering geology, and geophysics. And he's been working in the research division since 2007, so almost 8 years also, and lots of experience in groundwater management related to land subsidence. Pak Pulung, the stage is yours. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nishal. Okay, good afternoon, and maybe there is good morning for our fellow. And sorry for this interruption. Probably the situation is not so noisy to hear from them. Okay, thank you for the opportunity that I have been given for presenting what's happened in Indonesia, especially Jakarta. Can you please reply? Am I? Is my voice clear? Heard so clear, or is it unclear? Okay, thank you. Okay, today I will present about the Jakarta. No, it's about the understanding the socio-economic impacts from land subsidence from a water management perspective in the coastal area of North Java. And my presentation will be basically mainly in Jakarta, because lots of my research, especially with Deltares about 5-6 years ago, done in Jakarta. For the first introduction, my name is Pulung. I was a researcher in PUPR, Directorate General of Water Resources, but now I'm transferred to Directorate of Groundwater and Raw Water in Ministry of Public Works and Housing. Okay, what's the outline of my presentation? Is the first one is the scientific analysis. What is the understanding the mechanism of behind land subsidence, and the second one will be the socio-economic impacts. How to subsidence affect agriculture, communities, and infrastructure, and the governance. This is my role of the governance agency, the policy in addressing and managing the crisis. So, what's the land subsidence? My study case will be in DKI Jakarta, so most of the presentation will be based on Jakarta situation. The scientific analysis. What is the scientific analysis? The cause of the land subsidence, of course. The first one that we know is that Mrs. Rizka has mentioned about is the natural consolidation. The natural consolidation, and the second one will be the building loads, the groundwater extraction, and also tectonics. So as the research result points to the building loads is the most affected the land subsidence. So my research was head to the building load is the most affected to the land subsidence in North Jakarta. But the groundwater extraction is the only can be interfered by humans. So there will be the adaptation and mitigation measures that comprising to this cause of the land subsidence, because the basic principle will be, if we know the cause of the problem, we have solved half of the problem. So the first one, we have to know what's the cause of the land subsidence. So why do I say that the building loads is the most affected to the land subsidence? We'll see that, is it Jakarta really sinking? This is the big question. Is it really sinking? Is it in 10 years Jakarta will be sinking? Look, this is the condition of the Pitung house, Rumah Pitung, atau Pitung house in Marunda. It's located in the north coast of Jakarta, and this place is about 200 or 300 years old. And if we see the house in this area, they already built a pile of high house that comprising the flood in this area. So from the 300 or 400 years ago, Jakarta is already flooded, and they already know that they have to build a high house to compromise the flood. And this is why that we cannot say that Jakarta is really sinking in our lifetime, but in the geological lifetime, it has a different matter. So this is the geological condition of Jakarta. The Jakarta condition, but not Jakarta. The green color, the green color in the map, is the soft, very soft soil that deposit in the North Jakarta, and the soft soil, it is more likely to be consolidated. It was already deposited in a few hundred years, not in million years, but in a few hundred years. But it already consolidated. So if we compare, between countries that no countries between cities that have the land subsidence occurrence, we have the same setting. The first one will be Jakarta. The second one will be Tokyo, or maybe other city that have the subsidence like Bangkok. They all have the same geological setting, which is because of the fault. You see that Jakarta has is form a bay that in the center of Jakarta they are sinking like this. This is the tectonic condition of Jakarta. They are in the middle. They are sinking, and the deposit, the very soft soil deposit, is deposited in the north coast of Jakarta. So this is what makes Jakarta sinks really fast, because there are consolidation condition in the North Jakarta. Now, this is what we can see in the north part of Java. They have the same or the similar condition as Jakarta. And if we see in some area like Cirebon, a few hundred years ago, the coastline is at the Kasepuan Palace a few hundred years ago. But now they already deposit a few hundred meters to the shore, and the deposit will be will be compressed, will be consolidated with the time. So this is what we call the consolidation. And if we see that in our lifetime, in a few years, or in 2 or 3 decades, we can see the land subsidence. But in the geological time scale, it has a cycle. We can call it a Milankovic cycle. Sorry, I cannot mention the Milankovic cycle in this presentation because it's too long to be presented. Actually, I can discuss about this condition for Jakarta or North Java condition for a few hours because last time we have discussed with some of Indonesian professor, and we take about 3 hours to discuss about this condition in Jakarta, and they said that okay, tectonics has effect of Jakarta condition. So this is the scenario of the groundwater versus the land subsidence model. So from the few cause of the land subsidence, the first one is natural consolidation, the second one will be building load, the third one will be groundwater extraction, and the tectonics. We have talked about natural consolidation and tectonics, but we're going to talk about the groundwater extraction. This is the groundwater extraction. We see that the groundwater extraction, if it's the scenario of 1, 2, 3, and 4, we see that if the groundwater extraction is not highly extracted, the subsidence will always happen, but not in a very fast way. It will happen in a very fast way if it is extracted in a very extreme way, which is 10 times bigger than we have today. This is the extreme condition that will cause the land subsidence in a massive way. But without the massive groundwater extraction, which is 10 times bigger than today's condition, the subsidence will still be happen. This is what we can say that the subsidence condition is due to the natural consolidation. Okay, this is the groundwater, and this is the fun fact. The Jakarta registered groundwater extraction, number registered drill well is rising, but the groundwater extraction is lowering. This is some kind of topic for discussion. So this is the comparison between groundwater level and the land subsidence. From this graph, we see that the relationship is not positive. It sometimes have the same pattern within the subsidence and the unconfined aquifer or confined aquifer, but sometimes it doesn't have a positive correlation. So this is another fact that the groundwater is not the main condition that caused Jakarta land subsidence. So this is the INSAR from Jakarta report, INSAR data from JICA report. The red one is the most suffered the land subsidence. It's only at the fluid area. This is only at the top of the area. This is at the Muara Baru. We see that in 10 years, we have in 10 years, the picture on the right, it has the high land subsidence, but this is what happened today, 2017 and 2018. So the rate of the land subsidence is lowering, is decreasing. This is the condition of Jakarta land subsidence. This is the data from around 2010, 2011. The rate of the land subsidence is lowering. It is from GPS measurement point. And why does it happens like that? So this is the 1960 maps in Jakarta, the land covering. In 1990, the land covering is they left only in this part of Jakarta, and in the Marunda and the Mogot in here, and it has a positive correlation with the land subsidence map today. It's in Marunda, and it's in Marunda and Dan Mogot. This is why the building loads, the low foundation like housings have affected to the land subsidence. And the second one will be the north area. This is the north part of Jakarta, the Muara Baru part. This is the Batavia map. In the 1970s, 1700 or 1800 or maybe 1600 years back then, we see that Jakarta is still in a coast condition with no reclamation, without reclamation. So today we see that at the Google Maps, we can compare the map at the left and the right. We see that Jakarta has a reclamation area. This is if we overlay the map, will be like this. This is the red circle. We can see that there are the area that reclaimed and then it gets subsides. Okay, this is the social impact. I'm not talking much about this, but this is the impact. Jakarta has flooded. This is the flood in Jakarta, which has happened in the last few years or few hundred years. And what have we done as governance? The first one is the adaptive measure. The adaptive measure will be we create a coastal dike along the Jakarta coastline. This is the no regret measure that prevents water from getting into Jakarta. This is the adaptive measure. And then we have prepared the IFSP, Integrated Flood Safety Project, that if the coastal dike doesn't cure the problem, and then we have the second plan, we have the IFC, which is we create a giant seawall at the coast or at the shore of Jakarta, offshore of Jakarta. Okay, the mitigative measure will be monitoring and establishing national committee task force. So this is the monitoring. We have cooperation with JICA. They have make the monitoring point at some part of Jakarta. And the second one will be the fulfilling the water for Jakarta. And then this is the monitoring station along the Java coastline. And furthermore, about land subsidence in Indonesia, we have created a task force for land subsidence. We have several ministry in here, which is consists of BRIN, ITB, PUPR, and then Kemenko Marves, and then the SDM and other parties here with the data management and utilization system for the Jakarta land subsidence. Okay, this is from our college, Andreas 2018. He has measured the Jakarta land subsidence, Indonesian land subsidence, and this is the average rate of the land subsidence in Indonesia. Okay, as a closing, Jakarta as land subsidence has been observed since 2019. The speed of the trend line of land subsidence is gradually decreased, and some countermeasure has been taken to overcome the land subsidence problem. And the government, through IWRM, has been taken as one of the solutions to solve the land subsidence problem. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Hopefully, there will be a discussion. And back to you, Nisha. Thank you.
Makasih Pak Pulung. Thank you for the insightful information. Very, very good to see how the Ministry of Public Works is also involved in trying to mitigate, adapt issues around land subsidence. It's also good to see the NCICD ideas again. I know that we are involved together also to try to see how we can utilize with new insights, whether it's feasible or not to build a seawall, and how we can integrate nature-based solutions in those aspects. Let's move on to our last presenter, Payus Budiono, a very special friend of mine also. Thank you so much for being here. It's very good to see you again, and I know that we have had a very good collaboration for the past years. Payus has a PhD from Vrije University of Amsterdam and is very much involved in research on the on land subsidence flood risk management between Netherlands and Indonesian institutes. Payus, in principle, needs no introduction, so I will give the floor to you, Pa, so that we can listen to you, to your insightful presentation. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for the time, Nishal, and thank you for the opportunity to present here for the audience in both in offline and online. Please introduce myself. I'm Yus Budiono. I led Delta Alliance Indonesia wing some years ago, but then with the merging of research agency into BRIN, then started research group for hydrometeorological disaster. This is like a continuation of my dissertation that focus on flood risk in Jakarta, but then shift to land subsidence because land subsidence is the biggest force that increase flood risk in Indonesia. And here in this presentation, I show you our work, the research group work for the past 2 or 3 years or even more. Next, please. Yeah, we observe in the old times and in the former years, the whole area of Northern Java, we found more than 292. We review more than 292 research report. Next, please. Yeah, and this is the most frequently used method that we do. First we investigate what's been available in the research report. Like you see on the left hand side, we review 297 publications, and we also observe statistical data. Mostly we presented some months ago, past month in Singapore. And the second method is we almost always use semi-structured interview because we want to immerse everything in the field. And we observe this is better than doing normal survey with forms. Next. And we observed that the problem of land subsidence has been due to soil water extraction. We see that in the 80s, in 80s, people get water from dig well. Means that people get from surface groundwater. Next. And then 10 years later come the era of hand pump, which is more efficient. Next. And then after that, electricity came in the area, and people use water pump, electrical water pump, and then later, if you observe search engine on the right hand side, you will find so much water pump that operates in the deep well. Next. Yeah, and this is the same figure that you already have seen. At that the straight line here on the right hand on the middle showed that the 5 kilometers loss of the coastline. Next. Yeah, and this is the same figure that we get that was given by RVO on 2022, the time of BRIN MAC dam. Thanks. Next. And you see the same figure, 5 centimeters per year in most area in Demak, and 15 centimeter the maximum. Next. Yeah, and this is the ideas that we observe. First, that if things just go on without any mitigation or adaptation, then people will need to shift to other place that is drier. And then there is also an extreme suggestion from us to stop using electricity for water extraction, and turn with other options. And also we think that if we create outer ring dike, then the water world of Sayong will be more habitable. Next. Yeah, this is the intermediary research outputs. I mean intermediary because we haven't fulfilled the full draft, so we haven't submit anything, but somehow we already present the preprint, the abstract in various scientific events in Austria, in Jakarta, and in United States and Singapore. Finally, past month. Next. Yeah, and it comes to the lesson that we propose that in this event, in this cooperation, like we have started some years ago, try to erect, try to establish floating house on the top left, and then the final form is on the bottom left. But we also see that in the Netherlands, schoonskip is already established. Next. And we also think that the seawall need to learn from the Afsluit dike, also in the inner dike, particularly because Afsluit dike has already accommodated the fish migration facility. I mean, this is something that is not just structural, but it is also give some place for the nature. Next. The third thing, this is what people has done. It's been more observed by Rizka on the first presentation, that there is price to stay on the land. Next. And this is what we think will be useful. We are observing the dynamics of dune formation and disappearance in the area, which is now a water world. And later, probably, if we successfully observe the process, probably we will think of if design motor will be established there. Then we have the basic research need, the basic science needed. Thanks. Next. Sorry. Yeah, and this is another thing, how to surface water in the area using rainfall and storage bladder or collapsible water tanks. Next. And this is what we think will be useful on our sand dune if we implement the low crested breakwater. Then it will help retain the formed dune. And also if we turn the building with nature strategy on the dune, and then the dune will be established more with some vegetations. Next. Yeah, this is the team that has been doing research in the area. We are from research group Hydrometeorological Disaster. That was the Delta Alliance Indonesia wing. You may find our research more at ResearchGate. Thank you. That will be the conclusion of my presentation.
Thank you, Payus. Very much on time. Very well done.
Thanks.
Thank you so much to all the three presenters, Papulung, Bariska, Payus, for your insightful comments, and we've learned quite a bit. So now we move on to the Q&A session. And the first question is already addressed. So we have people online and we have people in the room live in Nijmegen. Let's move on to the question that was on the screen. Can you put it on the screen again, please? Yeah, thank you so much. Directly for Papulung, what we can see is, I hope you can also see it. What is the upcoming action to reduce and slowing down the rate of land subsidence in Jakarta? Also a question related to aquifer systems. What has contributed to land subsidence in Jakarta? No, it's a very difficult question and there is no one answer here, but maybe you can enlighten us a little bit with your insights, Pak.
Okay, thank you. Actually, this person, Mr. Gumilar, is one of my colleagues from BRIN, and he actually know what I did in the past few years. But this is a very good question and very difficult question. He knows how to ask me. I think he really knows me well. So, which aquifer or aquitard system that has great contribution to land subsidence in Jakarta? Of course, if I has to answer this, I will say that the aquitard system in the shallow area. So it's less than 40 meters in the Jakarta area. It is mainly at the aquitard system. Why? Because the land subsidence is not due to the aquifer condition, but it's due to the aquitard condition. Why? The compression, the consolidation is mainly happen in the aquitard system, not in aquifer. The aquifer system is an uncompressible layer, but aquitard system is the compressible. It will be at the shallow, between 0 to 40 meters. This is what we have modeled with the groundwater modeling last time, and the most affected area is at the depth condition. It is at the depth, about 0 to 40, because it is still a very, very, very young sediment. It's only aged about a few hundred years, not billion years. That's why it has still in a consolidation area, and it has been worsened. It has been sink faster because someone put the reclamation on it. This is the very soft soil, and someone put the reclamation on it, and here it becomes a burden, and it compresses. It creates the faster settlement. This is why the North Jakarta area, or most of the north part of Java area, gets the subsides fast. And if we see the graph, since the 2010 2011, it has been decreased. The rate has been steady because it has almost reached the limit of the consolidation. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Pa. It's very, very, very nice to hear the technical side of things, and then you can see that it's not a simple issue. I'm pretty sure that your colleague has a lot more questions, but I'll leave that to for later. We also had a second question, a little bit answered by Yusuf's presentation also. This is also a very, very difficult question from Mr. Sutanto, wondering how we should stop the issue. Clear examples on this. How does the Netherlands cope with the problem, and can we adopt the same approaches for Indonesia? Payus, do you want to say something about it? I would also like to say something about it, but I'll give you the floor first.
Yes, thank you for the chance. I would give my experience in the Netherlands. I was quite surprised that the Netherlands can maintain groundwater level, particularly in the farmland, to 20 centimeters, just 20 centimeters from below the ground. So that will help a lot with the land subsidence. This thing doesn't happen in Northern Java. And in particular, the quick rate is due to groundwater extraction, particularly the deeper groundwater extraction, 50 meters, 100 meters, and more, because this extraction method also occur in remote area in Sayung and in many remote places near the coast.
Yep.
I think those two. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Payus. To add a little bit on that, if you Google what did the Netherlands do on land subsidence and what measures did we take, then you might find a little bit on technical measures, but most of the measures that you will find are governance related, policy related. Prime examples are that we have put land subsidence very prominently in our Delta program. A couple of years ago, we also, on the highest level, we received instructions from the government that, for example, urban planning should be water and soil guided now. And there was a letter from the government going to all the institutes, all the layers of the government, that whatever we do in terms of urban and spatial planning needs to be water and soil guided. So it's a very strict rule that we have in place now. Things to not stop land subsidence, but work with it, or for example, building codes, also laws and regulations in terms of building codes, zoning, permits. We have also put into place subsidies for rewetting peatlands for farmers. And a very important thing, we test a lot. We have pilot projects, we have living labs. We realize the importance of learning the system, understanding that land subsidence has a effect on a very broad system, not only sectoral. So how does the Netherlands cope with the problem? It's a lot of policies, it's a lot of regulations, it's a lot of guidance from the government. And remember what Rizka says, there is a lack of regulation in Indonesia for dealing with land subsidence. Maybe that is something that we can learn from the Netherlands and from countries like Japan, for example. Japan stopped land subsidence not only because of only a technical measure, but because of a strong government, a strong champion in the government that says we are going to do this and we are following this. Adopting the same approaches for Indonesia, maybe, but what we said in the beginning, there is a very, very, very important element here that we have to consider, and that is culture and local institutions. We see it more and more in our work that we are not able to adopt one-on-one approaches from the Netherlands, from anywhere else to other countries. So maybe we cannot adopt the same approaches, but we can definitely learn from each other, and the principles of the approaches are very much uniform all over the world. I think we have time for a couple of more questions. We did have a question from the room in Nijmegen, from Miss Anissa. So, can you guys help to put Anissa on the screen? And then you also have to unmute. We cannot hear the room in Nijmegen, or
I can also just go there. Yeah. Can you hear me now?
we can hear you now. Yeah, yeah. Please.
Okay, great. Yes, thank you so much for the presentation. Also, hello to Pak Yus, colleague, and also Pak Gulung and Mbak Rizka, and also sorry, Michelle. Yes. Yeah, I have a question because I'm quite curious to hear that Rizka mentioned about that there's a lack of awareness of land subsidence. I'm just curious, like, why is it that needed? Like, why we need to be aware of land subsidence, and who actually should be aware of land subsidence? Because I'm studying the map actually since 2012 up to now, and I realized that much of the problem really about not really about the map itself, but really about the impact of development from the adjacent coastal area, which is in Semarang. So I was just wondering. Also, I think I'm quite agree with Michelle regarding the question about responsibility. Responsibility. So who should be actually responsible for the problem? Is it people in the map that has to actually initiate all these local initiatives while they're actually still thinking about how to feed their family? And while that the problems actually not caused by them in the map itself. Perhaps there's an issue about aquaculture, unsustainable aquaculture, etc. But yeah, the most important question for me to know, especially from the physical side, is about the root cause of the problem. So, can we say that it's about reclamation, or is it about development in Semarang, and how we can actually really target the root cause of the problem rather than only thinking about adaptation? So maybe from disaster risk reduction perspective, maybe we should already think about how to then mitigate the hazard itself, right? So yeah, idea about sand dune, etc. That sounds really interesting, but is that really something that we need to prioritize at this moment? So maybe just more questions than offering solutions. Yeah, so that's from my side.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Manisa. Reska, I think you take this one. There are a couple of questions. I think you choose, just give us your broad thoughts on this, please. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Bu Anissa. Why we need awareness about land subsidence is because, these all are related. When we only see about flood, then the measure would only be about adaptation and mitigation on flood itself, but not on the land subsidence. But the root cause is actually the subsidence, which makes the flood, the depth of flood is getting deeper, and therefore, I mentioned about PAMSIMAS, for example. Like PAMSIMAS itself is a program from the provincial government to tackle the situation during the dry season. But how it tackle the measures is by building some of artesian well, which is a deep well. So it is actually extracting the water, the groundwater. So, but we know that the groundwater extraction can lead to land subsidence. So that's why we need to integrate the measure, and we need to be aware that this root cause is actually land subsidence. Not only talking about the floodings, but also taking it as a land subsidence issue. And it is need to be spread, not only to the locals, and but it's also to be like the governments and the people need to be in one understanding. Like this is because of the land subsidence, and we need to agree first that this is land subsidence, so we can integrate the measures, and we can also have like an integrated because it is also very correlated with water. We can also plan a better integrated water resource planning. So I think that's why we really need to raise the awareness for the land subsidence.
Good, thank you, Bariska. Anissa, I hope it gives a little bit of insight. I'm pretty sure you have more questions, so please follow up with Riska separately. Thank you so much for your attendance. Last but not least, Pacos, good to see you. And of course, I also I know you have a question, so I'll give you the floor for the last question of today.
Thank you very much, Michel. My name is Koos Wierix. I worked 8 years in the Ministry of Public Works here in Jakarta on the problems we are also discussing today. And together with our Indonesian colleagues, all the others, we produced an enormous amount of information on what's going on. And we all know land subsidence is the cause of many problems. And we made piles of papers, rooms full, but never any decision by government was made. And that reflects to NCICD Jakarta. Some of this knowledge was used in other areas in Semarang. That's okay. But I'm curious now, because we are here talking about a very technical issue, land subsidence, about millimeters. The real problem, in my opinion, is about governance, about development. And what we wanted to do with our approach is come to an integrated approach, improving living conditions, improving economic chances for the people. And I wonder, I haven't heard anything about this yet in this discussion. We now will have Indonesia will have a new president in 1.5 months' time. And some time ago, he presented the problems of Jakarta, problems of North Java, PANTURA, in a very integrated way. And he said, yeah, we want to improve, just what I said, living conditions, housing conditions. We want to provide drinking water, sanitation. We want to increase economic development. And that looks promising, very promising. And I wonder how the things you are doing now, the people here on the table in Jakarta, are connected to this idea of global. And I wonder how, the simplest thing when you talk about governance, cooperation will be with all the others, with Bapanas, who made their own plans for this sort of things, with KRK, with the food ministry, with agriculture, with Parvest, the economic ministry. All those ministries are involved. And I think the big problem until now was that they don't cooperate. So how do we do that? And then include provinces, include DKI Jakarta. So it's a difficult question, but I hope to hear some yes.
Yeah, thank you, Koos. We've been talking about this for a couple of times also. It's a difficult question, and maybe we also have to frame it not as a question, but as a something to think about, because it is very, very difficult, especially in institutions like Indonesia, to work together, to do things together. Maybe one of the speakers wants to reflect. Maybe Payus, do you want to reflect a little bit on how you see this collaboration progressing, ongoing? And I mean, I do see a lot of positive developments now. Payus?
Yes, regarding NCICD, Pak Nishal and Pak Kus, I would say I would raise my own opinion. Maybe Pak Pulung
Please,
has
yeah.
other opinion. This like we know that NCICD is under the national government, put on top of Jakarta land, or will be on Jakarta land. So there is there are different interests from national and local. So this was the main problem, in my opinion, why NCICD was not quickly absorbed by Indonesia. I think that will be my quick answer, Pak Nishal.
Okay, thank you, Payus. Pak Pulung, do you have any? I hope you understood the question a little bit from Pakos or the remark. Do you have any additions, Pak Pulung?
Okay, thank you, Pak Nishal. Regarding to the NCICD, it is the national government's measures to overcome the land subsidence, but the locus will be in Jakarta, and we, from that point of view, we would like to spread the mechanism to overcome the land subsidence problem in Indonesia. But today, the land subsidence task force will be focused on the North Java region. So we have lesson learned from the NCICD project, which Pak was himself involved inside the NCICD project several years ago, and we are working together with our colleagues from Deltares, and that will be very good if we can do the same. We can replicate the adaptation and mitigation process for the north coast of Java. Probably that's Mr. Nisha.
Thank you, Pak Pulung. Rizka, do you have any main comments here?
No additional comment. I think Pak Yus and Pak Pulung already covered that well.
Good. Thank you so much. One thing from my side, I think it's very important that we as institutes, as governments, we make the business case of why you take certain measures, and that's why it's important to have these socio-economic studies, because often you see that benefits from and costs from a social side are not quantified enough. So the business case becomes very very skewed, and then investments are taken mostly based on tangible benefits, tangible costs. So that's why it's important to because is a dike the solution? We don't know. Are there other solutions? Are there other things that we need to consider? But that's why it's important to have these socio-economic studies where we can really pinpoint what the effect is, and then the next step would be to quantify these effects so that they can enter social cost benefit analysis. We have a last question from Dr. Tara from the Nijmegen School of Management. Dr. Tara, I think you are there in pink, yeah?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My question kind of connects the last two comments on governance and awareness regarding land subsidence. And this question is actually for Riska, but please, everyone, feel free to join in. I would like to know whether the awareness regarding land subsidence is similar among the residents who are clearly at the forefront of what is happening and the decision makers, that is the governance actors. And if there are differences in perceptions, what do you think contribute to these differences?
Thank you so much for the question. Riska, did you understand the question, or should I repeat it?
Could you please repeat it? Like
Okay,
it sounds echoing for me.
The question that Dr. Tara has is the perception of land subsidence the same for the people that are living in, for example, Demak and Sayung, and for the decision makers, so the politicians? That's correct, yeah, Dr. Tara? I rephrased your question. Yeah. That's a very interesting question, by the way.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Tara. It is also one of our aim is to bridge what the expectation from the society, from the dwellers there, and from the governments, because often we see like the governments see how to tackle the problem is okay, let's do relocations. But we know that from the field that their attachment to the place is quite high, and they do have histories in that place, and even though they are already have the same understanding that this is about land subsidence, but they, like, each of them have their own reason, and they each of them have their own way to adapt with the situation. And that's why we found that in different villages they cope it in different way. And so that's also the aim of it, like how can we bridge the different expectation from the society and from the government and between the society itself. And yeah, so but should be that should be tackled first by the same understanding, the same awareness about land subsidence, and that's why awareness of land subsidence is a first thing to do.
Okay. Thank you so much for the insights. Thank you for the question, Dr. Tara. Thank you for the question, for the answer, Riska. One thing to realize is it's going to take time. If you look at the institutional frameworks that from a macroeconomics perspective, you see that these measures and these thoughts take time. It can take up to 1,000 years for people to realize that that land subsidence is actually something that is going to impact them. Like I said, it's not flooding where you see it happening. So it's going to take time. It's a very interesting discussion, but we have to conclude. And I would like to thank Bariska, I would like to thank Papulung, I would like to thank Payus, I would like to thank the organizational team from Winner. Thank you, the people in the room. Thank you for attending. Thank you for the people online for taking the time. I learned a lot, and I was very happy to see this diverse group of people, researchers from all ages, and sharing our thoughts and our strong messages on land subsidence more from a socio-economic perspective. If you need something, if you have additional questions, please contact the organization and they can relay those questions back to us. Don't forget to fill in the feedback form because that is required for certification. For the rest, I wish you a very good day, a very good remainder of the Winner Conference, and thank you again so much, and thanks for the insights. Goodbye.